The holographic projection of Speaker Vale of the Valari dominated the chamber, his elongated features seeming to stretch even further in the magnification. President Alara Vance maintained her composure, her hands clasped firmly on the oak table, a relic she had insisted on bringing from Earth to the human embassy on Nexus Prime. The alien's voice, though translated through the neural interface, still carried that distinctive melodic condescension the Valari were known for. Resolution 943Z has passed with a clear majority, Madam President. The Galactic Consual Senate recognizes humanity's right to defend its territories, but the unchecked militarization of your species poses a threat to galactic peace. You have 90 standard cycles to comply with the disarmament protocols. Alara could feel Admiral Marcus Trin stiffen beside her. In 25 years of military service, she had never seen the man lose his composure, but his knuckles were white as he gripped the datapad. Speaker Vale, she replied, her diplomatic training allowing none of her fury to surface. Humanity joined the galactic community in good faith 50 years ago. In that time, we have established peaceful colonies, expanded beneficial trade relationships, and contributed significantly to scientific advancement. She leaned forward slightly. We have followed every provision of the accession treaty. There is no legal basis for this resolution. The Valari's bioluminescent markings pulsed with what Alara had learned to recognize as amusement. Perhaps you misunderstand the nature of the Senate, Madam President. We are not a court of law, but the governing body of civilized space. The member species have spoken. Resolution 943Z requires immediate cessation of all warship production, the decommissioning of orbital defense platforms, and submission of military technology for inspection. And if we refuse, Admiral Trin's voice was quiet, but carried the weight of Earth's combined fleet behind it. Then Earth will be considered in violation of its treaty obligations, Vile replied smoothly. Economic sanctions would be the first step. If necessary more, direct measures might be required. The implied threat hung in the air like a blade. We require time to review these demands and consult with our government, Alara said, maintaining protocol despite the outrage she felt. Of course, you have 90 cycles for compliance, not for deliberation. The resolution takes effect immediately. The hologram flickered. Good day, Madam President. As the projection faded, Alara turned to the small delegation. Besides Admiral Trin, there was Dr. Leon Novak, Earth's leading xenoarchaeologist, and Ambassador Torres, who had been suspiciously excluded from the Senate vote, despite being Earth's official representative. This is preposterous, Torres sputtered. They deliberately called the vote when I was in transit from Earth. It's worse than that, said Dr. Novak quietly. Her eyes, with their distinctive heterochromatic blue and amber, were focused on her tablet. While the speaker was threatening us, I received a data packet from my team on Proxima Centauri 4. The excavation site was approached by vessels, matching Valari configurations 2 days ago. They claimed to be a scientific delegation, but their scans focused primarily on our defensive systems. Admiral Trin's expression darkened. We're receiving similar reports from New Avalon and Titan Base. Surveillance drones detected unregistered ships at the edge of our sensor range. They're preparing for our refusal, Alara concluded. This isn't about peace. They want our technology. Dr. Novak nodded. Specifically, they want what we've recovered from the architect sites, the Aegis Protocol. Which officially doesn't exist, Trin added grimly. Alara stood, her decision made. Get me a secure quantum link to Earth. The full Defense Council needs to hear this. And Admiral, she locked eyes with him. Quietly put our forces on alert status. If they're already positioning assets near our colonies, we need to be ready. Yes, Madam President. As they dispersed, Alara moved to the window overlooking Nexus Prime, the glittering capital world of the galactic community. 50 years ago, humanity had looked to the stars with hope and wonder upon first contact. Now she feared they had been naive. The Defense Council meeting lasted through the night. Gathered in the White House Situation Room, The most powerful humans in the solar system debated their response to what amounted to an existential threat. "We should stall for time," suggested Secretary Chen Li, her hologram flickering slightly from the Mars colony link. "Request clarification on specific provisions, dispute the legal basis." "They're not interested in legal arguments," Alara interrupted. "This resolution was orchestrated. Our intelligence suggests the Volari have been lobbying against us for months." General Santiago nodded. "The timing is no coincidence, just as we've begun to fully understand the Architect technology." All eyes turned to Dr. Novak, who stood before a holographic display, showing the intricate patterns discovered in ruins across 3 human colonies. The Architects were an advanced civilization that disappeared approximately 50,000 years ago, she explained. They left behind installations on countless worlds, most dormant until recently. She manipulated the display to show a structure on New Avalon. "When we established the colony, we discovered this facility buried beneath the northern continent. Similar structures have been found on Proxima Centauri 4 and Tau Ceti 2. "And these structures contain weapons?" asked the vice president. "Not exactly," Dr. Novak replied. "The technology appears to be defensive in nature. The Aegis Protocol, as we've designated it, creates an energy field capable of absorbing and redirecting massive amounts of kinetic and energy impacts. Essentially, an impenetrable shield. Which is why the Volari want us disarmed," Admiral Trin concluded. "Our analysis of Senate voting patterns shows they've been systematically building a coalition against Earth for years. They've positioned themselves as the technological gatekeepers of the galaxy, but the Architect technology responds to human operators in ways it doesn't for other species." Alara thought of the first demonstration she'd witnessed, where a simple touch from a human technician had activated systems dormant for millennia. "So our options are clear," she stated. "Submit to the resolution, which would leave us defenseless, or refuse and face potential military action." "There is a third option," Dr. Novak said quietly. All heads turned to her. "We accelerate the Aegis deployment. The system was designed to protect entire planets. If we can activate it on our major colonies before any hostile action, that would be seen as an act of defiance," the Secretary of State warned. "They've already decided to move against us," Admiral Trin countered. "The question isn't whether there will be conflict, but whether we'll be prepared when it comes." Alara studied the faces around her, the weight of 7 billion lives heavy on her shoulders. "Begin the deployment, but maintain absolute secrecy. Meanwhile, we'll engage diplomatically, request clarification and additional time." "And if they refuse?" asked the vice president. "Then, humanity will stand its ground," she replied. "We didn't cross the stars to surrender our sovereignty to those who fear our potential." The next 3 weeks passed in a blur of diplomatic maneuvers and covert operations. Ambassador Torres filed formal protests and requests for Senate mediation, buying precious time, while Earth's fastest ships carried key components and personnel to the colonies. Dr. Novak barely slept, coordinating research teams across 5 worlds as they worked to unlock the final sequences of the Aegis Protocol. The Architect technology, with its crystalline matrices and quantum-entangled components, seemed almost alive, responding to human proximity in ways that defied conventional science. Meanwhile, Admiral Trin repositioned the fleet under the guise of routine exercises, ensuring that no colony would be left completely vulnerable. Intelligence reports confirmed their worst fears. Various alien armadas were assembling at strategic points, officially, for peacekeeping exercises. On the 23rd day after the resolution, Alara was awakened by an emergency alert. The holographic display beside her bed showed the grim face of Admiral Trin. "Madam President, we have detected a large force approaching New Avalon. Multiple ship classes from at least 7 species, including Volari command vessels." Alara was instantly alert. "They're moving before the deadline." "Yes, ma'am. They claim to be conducting compliance inspections, authorized by the Senate, but their approach vector and weapon signatures suggest otherwise." "How long until they reach the colony?" 6 hours. We have elements of the Third Fleet in position, but they're outnumbered at least 4-1. Alara made her decision. Order the colonial governor to activate the Aegis protocol, then patch me through to Speaker Vale. Less than an hour later, she stood in the diplomatic communications center, facing the Volari leader's hologram once again. Your actions constitute a violation of sovereign human territory, Speaker Vale, she stated, without preamble. The compliance period has not yet expired, and no inspection force was authorized by any treaty we've signed. The Volari's expression was unreadable to human eyes, but his tone conveyed smugness. The Senate has authorized preventative measures to ensure compliance, Madam President. Our intelligence indicates your military has been engaged in suspicious activities. We merely seek to verify your peaceful intentions. With an armada, Alara challenged. Those ships carry enough firepower to level the colony. Withdraw them immediately, or we will consider this an act of war. A regrettable escalation of rhetoric, Vile replied smoothly. Rest assured, if your colony has nothing to hide, they have nothing to fear. The inspection will proceed as planned. The transmission ended before she could respond. Alara turned to her advisors, her face set in determined lines. They've made their choice. So have we. She activated the secure channel to New Avalon. Governor Reyes, this is President Vance. Initiate the Aegis protocol immediately. Admiral Trin, order all forces to defensive positions only. We will not fire first, but we will respond if attacked. On New Avalon, Colonial Governor Miguel Reyes stood in the recently excavated central chamber of the Architect facility. What had once been a mysterious archaeological site was now a hive of activity, with technicians monitoring equipment hastily installed among the ancient crystalline columns. Status, he demanded. Dr. Novak's assistant, a brilliant young physicist named Aisha Khan, looked up from her console. Power systems at 89% and climbing. The integration with our grid is holding stable. The alien fleet has entered the outer system, reported Security Chief Vale. They're broadcasting demands for our surrender and disarmament. Military vessels are taking up orbital positions. Reyes exchanged a glance with Khan. How much longer? 10 minutes to full power. We've never tested the system at this scale before. We may not have 10 minutes, Vale warned. They're launching landing craft, and their capital ships are moving into bombardment position. Reyes activated his comm. This is Governor Reyes to all New Avalon citizens. Proceed to designated shelter areas immediately. This is not a drill. He turned back to the team. Do what you can to speed it up. If those ships open fire... Energy spike, one of the technicians called out. They're powering weapons. In orbit above New Avalon, the alien fleet had formed a blockade pattern. On the bridge of the Volari flagship, Commander Zex watched the human colony with cold calculation. No sign of their fleet retreating, his second reported. Their orbital platforms remain active. As expected, Zex replied. The humans are defiant to the end. Begin the demonstration barrage. Target their military installations first. The massive cannons of the Volari warship powered up, joined by the weapons of their allies. The first salvo launched a devastating array of energy beams and kinetic projectiles that would overwhelm any conventional defense. But, as the weapons fire approached the planet, something extraordinary happened. A shimmering field of energy materialized in the upper atmosphere, iridescent, like the surface of a soap bubble, but spanning the entire hemisphere. The combined firepower of 7 alien fleets struck the barrier and bounced. Energy beams were reflected back into space. Kinetic projectiles reversed course, as if they'd hit an elastic surface. Several smaller alien vessels caught in the path of their own, returned fire exploded in brilliant flashes. On the Volari flagship, chaos erupted. Impossible! Zex shouted. What is this technology? Scan that defensive field? Our sensors cannot penetrate it, his science officer replied, voice trembling. The energy pattern matches no known configuration. Launch the landing forces, we'll breach it from the ground. But the transport ships met the same fate, rebounding from the shield with such force that they were flung back into space, their engines failing as they tumbled away. On the planet's surface in the Architect control chamber, Khan stared at her readings in amazement. The shield is at 100% efficiency and holding. It's actually drawing energy from the attacks to strengthen itself. Governor Reyes couldn't hide his relief. Notify Earth. Tell them the Aegis works. Dr. Novak, watching remotely from the research outpost on Proxima Centauri 4, felt a surge of vindication. The technology she had spent a decade studying had just saved thousands of lives. But as data streamed in from the new Avalon deployment, something unexpected caught her attention. One of the Volari vessels damaged and adrift after the shield reflection had been captured by Earth's Third Fleet. The initial scans revealed something startling: Architect technology integrated into its weapon systems. "They've been using it all along," she murmured, reviewing the data. "But their implementation is crude forced." She expanded the molecular analysis. "They've been trying to weaponize it, but the core technology is rejecting their modifications." She immediately established a quantum link with President Vance, who was coordinating Earth's response from the Situation Room. "The Volari have been experimenting with Architect technology for decades," Dr. Novak explained, sending the relevant scans. "But they've been unable to fully activate it as we have. The molecular patterns are degraded, as if the technology itself is resisting their attempts to weaponize it." Alara studied the data, the implications becoming clear. This was never about galactic peace. They feared we would discover what they've been doing. That's why they pushed for our disarmament so aggressively. "There's more," Dr. Novak continued. "I've been comparing the activation patterns from New Avalon with our previous research. The Architect technology doesn't just work better for humans. It was designed to respond to our genetic markers." Her heterochromatic eyes were wide with the implications. "Madam President, I believe the Architects intended for humanity to find this technology. We may be their designated inheritors." The revelation sent shockwaves through Earth's leadership. Within hours, the news of the failed attack on New Avalon had spread throughout the galactic community. Several neutral species previously hesitant to challenge the Volari-led coalition began to openly question the legitimacy of Resolution 943Z. For 3 days, the standoff continued. The alien fleet remained in New Avalon system, but kept a respectful distance from the shielded planet. Meanwhile, diplomatic channels exploded with activity as various species demanded explanations from both sides. Alara knew this was humanity's moment, not just to defend itself, but to reshape its relationship with the galactic community. She arranged for an extraordinary session of the Senate, where she would address all species simultaneously. As she prepared her speech, reports continued to flow in from Dr. Novak and her team, who were working around the clock to understand the full implications of their discovery. The Architect ruins contained more than defensive technology. They held a message, fragments of which were being assembled like a cosmic puzzle. The Senate chamber was packed when Alara took the central podium. Representatives from over 200 species filled the tiered seating, with billions more watching via quantum entanglement broadcasts throughout the galaxy. Speaker Vale sat in his elevated position, his usual composure noticeably strained. "Distinguished representatives," Alara began, her voice steady. "I come before you today not to issue threats or demands, but to speak a simple truth that recent events have made clear: the path to peace cannot be paved with deception." She activated a holographic display showing the Volari ship with its Architect-derived technology. For decades, certain members of this august body have been secretly exploiting the legacy of the Architects, the ancient civilization, whose remnants we have all encountered in our explorations. Murmurs ran through the assembly as the evidence was presented. Detailed scans, comparative analyses, and most damning of all, classified Volari research documents recovered from the damaged vessel. Humanity was commanded to disarm under the pretense that our development threatened galactic stability, Alara continued. The truth is that we were targeted because we had discovered what some wished to keep hidden, that the Architects left their technology not as weapons to be hoarded, but as tools for the advancement of all sentient life. She gestured, and the display changed to show the Aegis shield protecting New Avalon. What you see is not a weapon, but a shield. Its purpose is not conquest but protection. And while it responds particularly well to human operation, we have no desire to keep its benefits for ourselves. The chamber had grown silent, hundreds of alien species watching intently. Therefore today, I formally reject Resolution 943Z as the product of deception and fear. In its place, I propose a new compact, the Peaceful Progress Treaty, whereby the legacy of the architects will be studied cooperatively for the benefit of all species. She paused, then delivered the final revelation. In the ruins on New Avalon, our scientists discovered an intact message from the architects themselves. I share it with you now, in the spirit of complete transparency. The holographic display shifted to show ancient symbols, with the translation appearing beneath. To those who find this message, if you have activated these defenses without turning them to conquest, you have proven yourselves worthy heirs. The knowledge we leave is not meant for one species alone, but for all who choose creation over destruction. The silence in the chamber was profound, broken only when a representative of the Mhiran, an ancient and respected species known for their wisdom, rose to speak. We have long suspected the Volari of concealing discoveries from the ruins. The Mhiran stated, their multifaceted eyes gleaming. If humans have truly unlocked the architect's legacy and offer to share it, then perhaps they understand its purpose better than those who would use it for dominance. One by one, representatives rose to question the Volari demand investigations or express support for Earth's proposal. Speaker Viel attempted to regain control of the session, but the damage was done. His coalition was fracturing before everyone's eyes. By the day's end, Resolution 943Z had been suspended pending a full investigation, and a preliminary agreement to explore the Peaceful Progress Treaty had been adopted. It wasn't a complete victory, but it was a beginning. As Alara left the Senate chamber, Admiral Trin fell into step beside her. Impressive performance, Madam President. But the Volari won't forget this humiliation. No, they won't, she agreed. Which is why our work is just beginning. The shield bought us time and leverage, but now we need to build something more lasting than defenses. An alliance, Trin nodded, based on mutual benefits rather than fear. Exactly. And speaking of benefits, she activated her comm. Dr. Novak, what's the status of the Proxima site? The scientist's voice came through clearly. We've made a breakthrough, Madam President. The data we recovered from New Avalon provided the key to accessing the central database here. There's more. Much more than we imagined. I'm on my way back to Earth. Have your findings ready for review. 6 months after the New Avalon incident, the galaxy had transformed. The Volari had withdrawn from most of their leadership positions in the Senate, their influence diminished by the scandal. In their place, a more diverse coalition was emerging, with humanity playing a central role, not because of military might, but technological cooperation. The Peaceful Progress Treaty had been ratified by over 70% of Senate species. Under its provisions, architect sites throughout the galaxy were being studied by multi-species teams, with the resulting knowledge shared according to carefully negotiated protocols. On Earth, in the newly constructed Nexus Institute, President Vance met with the first graduating class of the Architect Studies program, scientists from 28 species, who had spent intensive months learning to work with the ancient technology. Your collaboration represents the future we are building, she told them. One where knowledge serves as a bridge between civilizations, not a barrier. After the ceremony, she joined Dr. Novak in her private laboratory. The scientist had changed over the past months, her former academic reserve replaced by a quiet confidence. She had become the foremost authority on architect technology in the galaxy, respected even by species that had initially resisted human leadership. The integration protocols are exceeding expectations. Dr. Novak reported showing holographic data from various implementations. The medical applications alone have advanced treatment options for 15 species. And the defense systems? Alara asked. The Extended Alliance now has functioning Aegis shields on 7 worlds with 5 more nearing completion. The technology adapts to each planet's unique conditions. She hesitated. But there's something else you need to see. She led the president to a secured area, where a crystalline fragment floated in a containment field, pulsing with soft blue light. We found this in the deepest level of the Tau Ceti ruins, Dr. Novak explained. It activated spontaneously when approached by humans, much like the other technology, but its function is different. It's a message encoded more complexly than anything we've encountered before. What does it say? Alara asked. It took weeks to decipher even a portion, but the opening is clear. If you are reading these words, humanity has passed the final test. Alara studied the glowing crystal. Test what test? The message continues to reveal itself gradually, but we've pieced together that the architects were facing some kind of existential threat, not just to themselves, but to all life. Before they left, they seeded their technology throughout the galaxy, designed to activate only for species that would use it responsibly. And they chose us, why? Dr. Novak shook her head. Not exactly. They created a profile genetic, neurological, and behavioral markers that would identify species with the potential for both great advancement and great empathy. Humanity matches that profile more closely than any species encountered so far. So we weren't specifically chosen. We were compatible. Yes, but that compatibility means something, Madam President. The very technology that saved New Avalon could have been a devastating weapon in the wrong hands. The fact that we instinctively used it for defense, rather than offense, confirmed what the architects hoped to find. Alara contemplated this for a long moment. Does the message say anything about the architects themselves, where they went? Only hints so far. References to a final journey and a sanctuary beyond the reach of the darkness. But there's also mention of a gateway, potentially some kind of interstellar portal technology beyond anything we currently possess. Could it still exist after 50,000 years? If their other technology has survived, it's possible, Dr. Novak replied. And if we can find it. The implications didn't need to be stated. A civilization capable of creating technology that survived millennia, that could read the very genetic code of species that didn't exist when it was built, what other wonders might they have left behind? 2 weeks later, Alara authorized the formation of a special exploratory unit, combining the best scientific minds with capable military protection. Its mission to follow the clues left in the architect ruins and locate the mysterious gateway. Dr. Novak was the natural choice to lead the scientific contingent, while Captain Elise Vale, the officer who had coordinated New Avalon's defense, would command the security team. The newly commissioned exploration vessel, Prometheus, would carry them beyond the boundaries of known space. On the day of their departure, Alara stood in the observation lounge of Earth Orbital Station, watching the sleek ship prepare for its maiden voyage. Admiral Trin joined her, his uniform now bearing the insignia of the Extended Alliance fleet. "Do you think they'll find it?" he asked quietly. "I don't know," Alara admitted. "But the journey itself matters. 6 months ago, we were facing isolation and possibly extinction. Now, we're leading an alliance of 50 species on a mission of discovery. Thanks to your leadership," Trin said, "and a well-timed miracle." Alara smiled slightly. "Not a miracle, Admiral. Preparation meeting opportunity. The architects may have left us the tools, but we chose how to use them." Aboard the Prometheus Doctor, Novak stood on the bridge watching Earth recede as the ship accelerated toward its first destination. The coordinates had been extracted from references in 5 different architect sites, pointing to an unexplored system beyond the Perseus Arm. Beside her, Captain Vale directed the final preparations for the jump to faster-than-light travel. "Course laid in, Doctor. Ready when you are." Dr. Novak took a moment to absorb the significance of this journey. From a xenoarchaeologist studying ancient ruins to the leader of what might be the most important expedition in human history, it was a path she could never have anticipated. She thought of the message fragments they had decoded, hinting at wonders and dangers beyond imagination. Whatever they found, whether the architects themselves or merely their legacy, humanity was no longer alone in facing it. "Proceed, Captain," she said. "Let's see what the architects left for us to find." The Prometheus vanished into FTL, carrying the hopes of Earth and its new allies toward the unknown. Behind them, the Peaceful Progress Treaty continued to reshape galactic politics, with new discoveries shared across species that had once viewed each other with suspicion. On New Avalon, the shield that had saved the colony was now a permanent installation, its iridescent glow visible from orbit, not as a barrier, but as a reminder that protection and cooperation could triumph over aggression. And on Earth, President Vance addressed the United Nations, the governing body that had guided humanity since before the stars were reached. "The architects chose to leave behind tools, not weapons," she told them. "Knowledge, not conquest. In doing so, they presented us with a choice to hoard power or to share progress. Our response to that choice has changed our place in the galaxy." She looked out at the assembly, representatives of a unified humanity that had faced its greatest challenge and emerged stronger. "We do not know what challenges await us beyond the stars, but we know this humanity will meet them not alone, but alongside allies who share our vision of a galaxy where knowledge serves all. That is our inheritance, not the technology itself, but the wisdom to use it well." As night fell over Earth, billions of humans looked up at the stars with a new understanding. They were not just explorers or colonists, but inheritors of an ancient legacy and architects of a new future. Whatever that future held, they would face it together with each other and with the diverse species who now called them allies. In the vastness of space, the Prometheus continued its journey toward the unknown, carrying the question that had driven human exploration since the dawn of consciousness: what lies beyond? And for the first time, they had reason to hope that the answer would not just be discovered, but shared across species, across worlds, across the endless expanse of the cosmic sea.